Well, joining me now is former star of SAS Who Dares Wins, At Middleton, organiser of BLM protests, Iman Aiton. Well, welcome to both of you. And we also, down the line, we have royal correspondent at Vanity Fair, Katie Nicholl. I'll start with Katie Nicholl. Katie, thanks for joining me. I've got to say, the nearer we get to this global event, as Netflix call it, which is going to be unleashed on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. with the first 3 episodes, the more angry I'm becoming about what this is going to do to a grieving monarch who's not even been coronated yet to replace his mother, to the new Prince of Wales trying to build that position now for himself and his wife and his children. All of it makes me puke that these two, once again, are going to be raining muck all over their families, not just for the global titillation, but for hard dollars, $80 million, which is why they're doing it.
Absolutely, and I can only imagine for the King, for the Prince of Wales, I mean, they must just have their heads in their hands. Exasperated, frustrated, hurt, betrayed, angry, all words that I've been told are the feelings behind closed doors at the palace. Who knows whether they're going to be tuning in when the first 3 episodes of this docuseries drop on Thursday. I suspect the royal lawyers will be watching very closely. I'm sure the courtiers will be watching closely, particularly those who claim they were bullied by Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. And I think the problem with all of this is so clearly highlighted in those very controversial trailers is it is so partisan, it is so one-sided, and I suspect we'll come away saying exactly what we said after the Oprah interview. Well, where were the counter questions? Where are the tabloid editors who can put another side of the argument across? They say they want to put across their truth, but is it the truth?
Well, we know after Oprah it's nowhere near the truth. At Middleton, you've always been very supportive of Harry. I think the military connection, obviously, and there's no doubt, this guy served his country with honour in war zones, and he deserves great credit for that. My brother-in-law taught him at Sandhurst Military Academy, said he was a fine young soldier. Nothing can take that away from him. But what I detect from people I know in the military is an unbelievable disappointment in what he's now becoming. And the fact that, of course, when you serve the military, you serve an oath to serve your country and your monarch.
Yes.
And here he is just now constantly attacking his father, who's the new king, and the monarchy, the institution.
I think when people are fed up with being suffocated by wokeness and by an attention-seeking manner like they have been, you can't defend them anymore. Harry, I defended him all along, said, look, he's protected his country, he served his country, he should go off like they wanted to, go off and live their life outside of the media, outside of the limelight.
With privacy, away from the media.
And I completely respected that. I thought to myself, do you know what? The man served his country, let him get away if that's what he wants to do. But to then do the complete opposite, not the complete opposite discreetly, the complete opposite in our faces, not only the people of his country, which we did look at him as our prince, but also the monarchy. I served the monarchy. I swore allegiance to the monarchy. I fought for Harry, for William, for the Queen, for the King. I fought for those people during a couple of decades. So when I see now that I've not only defended him, but he's come out and the wokeness behind it, the virtual signalling behind this is sickening. And I think people have got to the point where they're fed up with hearing the same old jargon and then making money out of it.
Well, it's also hypocrisy and lies, right? In the 2 trailers, which last no more than 2.5 minutes between them.
The new Netflix docuseries with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has sparked a global firestorm. Tensions are boiling, critics are raging, and royal insiders feel betrayed. From anger at the monarchy to claims of racism and manipulation. Subscribe for more raw royal drama and join the conversation. First up, the Backlash. The panel tore into the docuseries, calling it a disgrace to the monarchy.
Already 6 of the images that they have used in the trailers to illustrate the intrusion into their lives have been proven to be the complete opposite. Either they weren't at the events which are being depicted, like one's a Harry Potter premiere 5 years before they met, or their official photo calls where the pictures they've used were actually from people who'd been officially approved to stand there and take those pictures of the royals to promote them.
What's very obvious in here, Piers, what's very obvious here is there's a toxic partner in this relationship, and we know who it is. You know, Harry is not the person that he is now. When you look at the two differences of what we know him as and to what I'm not...
Okay, so let me just...
Well, hang on.
Can I just cut in? Because I'm listening to you. You're bashing this woman in front of me, and I'm not going to tolerate it.
I'm going to come to you.
You are.
She, by the way, is unloading a load of manure all over her family in the next 48 hours. So we'll come to you. One moment. I just want to finish on one point about the lying is one thing. But the hypocrisy. These two go on about carbon footprint, about the environment. And where do they wash up to get this award? In another private plane. I mean, to me, again, they say one thing, they preach one thing, but they do the complete opposite. Right, the stage is yours.
Thank you.
Give me one good reason why we shouldn't be feeling this way about these two.
OK, you know what? I'm going to start with the first point because I've had to listen to a load of people vilify this woman all day, every day, and you know what? I'm fed up of it. So, first point, OK? So, the commercialisation of the rift within the royal family is a byproduct, OK? A byproduct of the institution's failure to be anti-racist and cooperative, which has ultimately led to a series of savvy business deals and strategic manoeuvres on their part in order to ensure the safety and security of their family, what you both fail to understand. Secondly, institutionalised racism, when pertaining to institutionalised racism, when an individual needs help, try to seek help and realise that there is no one to turn to, what you'll often find, and you should know this as a journalist, what you often find is that person will seek solace in the media and press outlets in order, hold on a second, hold on, in an attempt to garner support, build awareness, understanding and inspire action. And all of these typical circumstances would be perfectly OK, but for some reason it's not with this.
But we don't disagree with that. We don't disagree with that.
In any normal circumstances, this would be OK. But hold on a second. It's not for this particular couple. Now, hold on. Let's just bear that in mind.
Well, I want to ask you one thing about what you just said.
OK,
Where is the evidence that she went to people at the palace and they refused to give her help? Who were these people? Nearly 2 years later, we still don't have any names.
OK.
Nothing.
Right, so you're holding on to the fact that she won't give names, and I've already told you that.
I think she's a liar.
Hold on a second. Right,
I think she's a barefaced
liar. So you're
liar.
categorically saying that she's a liar.
Yes.
But right, so let me just say this. Firstly,
she said her son hadn't been made a... She said, well, I'm going to say why I call her a liar. She said to Oprah Winfrey her son had not been made a prince because of his skin colour. Absolute lie.
OK, so this is what... OK,
the lie.
By virtue of the fact that you've come out with that opinion or thought, shows me that you have a very rudimentary understanding of racism. So let me break it down to both of you, OK?
That's just a fact.
Hold on a second. No, hold on a second. Hold on a second. No.
Go on, tell me about racism.
The institution... OK, the reason why institutions are able to perpetuate racism is because they rely heavily on covert racism, which is hard to prove, therefore it thrives. Let me just break it down some more because you clearly don't understand.
One panellist said, "This is nothing but an $80 million betrayal. The timing? Awful." With King Charles still fresh on the throne and William preparing for a bigger role, many saw this as a calculated media stunt, not a cry for help. To them, this wasn't about truth. It was about money. Then came the emotional blow. A military veteran, once proud to serve with Prince Harry, said he was deeply disappointed. Harry served with honour. Now, he's abandoned what he once stood for.
Covert racism is racial prejudice that is subtle and discreet and often disguised and rationalised with an alternative explanation. So I'll give you an example. Hold on, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. I will give you an example.
If I saw that openly, I would jump in and I would say, that is not right. 100%. I think any normal person
would do that. What do you mean, what's not right? What's not right?
Racism, full stop. It should be stamped out. Absolutely.
But you don't even understand it by virtue of the fact that you're even saying that. You clearly don't understand it.
I do understand
racism. You don't understand.
Absolutely I do.
You clearly don't understand.
If someone being judged by the colour of their skin and being...
I understand one thing.
So how is it perpetuated within an institution? You're telling me you understand racism. How is it perpetuated within an institution?
But you're getting into the nitty-gritty of things now.
Nitty-gritty? Hold on a second. You've just said you understand racism. How is it perpetuated within an institution?
Excuse me, time out. My show.
Your show.
Here's my point. My point about Meghan and Harry. They say all this stuff without producing any evidence.
And you wouldn't let me finish.
It.
But you wouldn't let me finish. I've already just explained to you. Covert racism is racial prejudice that is subtle and discreet.
But you have to prove it.
Now, hold on a second. No, but this is the issue.
You can't say my son wasn't made a prince because of his skin colour.
Let me explain. This is what I'm trying to explain to you, and you won't let me finish. So let me finish, and you'll be able to raise your point. Okay. So, racial prejudice. that is subtle and discreet. It's called covert racism.
You said this.
Okay, hold on, listen. Just listen.
Just
Because you're
repeat
not.
yourself
No, you're not.
multiple
You're not
times.
understanding.
I think
You're
we
not
both understand
understanding.
what racism
No, Piers, you're not understanding. Because the reality is, I can give you an example. Because clearly you're not getting it. So someone can come along and say, "Oh, I don't like Meghan because she's this, she's that, she's a liar, she's this, she's that." When the reality is, secretly, it's actually
That
due
doesn't
to
make
the
you
fact.
racist.
Hold on a second. Let me finish, please, Anne.
Yeah.
It's actually due to the fact that Harry, who is a royal, ended up marrying a woman from the black community. But you cannot say that out loud because that is
got
overtly
nothing to do
racist.
with-
It is overtly racist and that is against
Iman,
the law.
calm
So
down,
what you do...
calm down.
Listen,
Yeah.
because you won't
You
listen.
can't just shout
won't
your way through the
listen.
next hour, right? Here's my point about that. Nothing I've
listen.
ever said that's critical of Meghan Markle has anything to do with her skin colour.
Okay,
Nothing.
so at best...
Either subliminal or overt or any other way. It's to do with her hypocrisy and her lies.
What's hypocrisy? Because
Now,
you've ultimately said that she's a liar, and that's gaslighting, which I've already told you
also
about.
think she's a fake. Let me ask you one question. Front page of every paper today, or most of them, have pictures of her crying in the trailer for the series.
Yeah.
Do you think those tears were genuine?
OK, so this is what... I'm not even going to go down this
Well, they're
route,
genuine.
because you're trying to lead on the fact that just because someone is an actress, that therefore every time that they cry,
just
it's
asked you a
ultimately
question.
fake. I'm answering you a
Do you
question.
think her tears are genuine?
You are implying... I do, because the reality is she's ultimately said that
Then I
that
want to play you
institution
something.
perpetuated
I want to
racism.
play you something.
So this is an actress who
You
can
think-
act
you-
and who can cry on cue, but
Okay.
also can cry when
I'm just
dealing
going to
with
play you a
actual
clip. I'm going to play you a
I get your point.
I'm
I'd
going
like
to play
to
you a
jump in
clip.
after.
This is Meghan Markle.
Now make yourself cry. Oh, I can do that so well. Oh my God, it's crazy. You're like, Meghan, one tear, left eye, go. Give me 3 seconds.
3 seconds is all it takes for her to cry.
And just a quick one on that, Piers.
She's an
Just-
actress.
And I get
And
your
she's
point.
scamming
And I
everybody.
really do.
She's
But
not.
when you talk
She's
about
really
the
not.
discreet...
She's had to do
when you
this
talk about
because she's
discreet
been left out in the
racism.
cold. This is how institutionalised racism works. When you dare to go up to against an institution due to the fact that they're perpetuating racial prejudice,
I just
what
showed
usually
you.
happens, what usually happens,
Iman,
they get left out
Iman,
in the cold, and
I
they
just
end up
showed
having
you.
to find
But do you not
solace
think people
in the
manipulate
media,
that
in
card? Do
finding
you not
money
think people
to
manipulate
survive.
that
I
card?
want to
Pages
explain
again.
this
Do you not
to
think
you.
people manipulate that because
engagement.
it can't be proven?
And you
because
don't think that people
No,
are
exactly,
racially
but
prejudiced
can you
and
not see
are
them-
trying to pretend that it's something
But
other than racial
100
prejudice?
But do you not think people use that card as well in a vindictive and a manipulative
And
way?
do you not think that
No, I
people
do.
are racially
I do.
prejudiced
I
and
do.
are trying to...
But do you not see my point of view?
Time out.
Do you not see my- I do.
Could you
I
stop?
do. I
Listen,
do. I see
don't
that.
just talk over each
You
other.
see my
Iman,
point of view as
Iman.
well.
Yeah.
The veteran slammed the couple for hypocrisy, saying Harry turned his back on the institution that gave him purpose. If you're still with me, smash that subscribe button. We're just getting started. The debate exploded when BLM activist Iman argued the royal family failed Meghan when it mattered most. She highlighted covert racism, those quiet, systemic biases that are everywhere but rarely seen. Meghan was vilified for things like touching her baby bump, while Kate was praised. Critics pushed back, claiming Meghan was playing the victim and denying racism. Two realities. No one willing to back down. The panel ripped into what they called hypocrisy at its worst. They accused Harry and Meghan of preaching environmentalism while flying private.
Look at the front pages there, which is when their engagement was announced.
Yeah.
Where's the racism?
Do you remember that was before she actually said that the institution was racist? And that's my point. How institutionalised racism works is
Right.
the minute
But
you
do-
dare
but
say
you
that
accept-
the institution is
Sorry, but
racist,
just-
everyone
Iman,
piles
stop
on.
shouting.
That's what happens.
But you accept there's no racism in those media pages.
Because that was before she said that the institution
No,
was racist.
actually, what
after that moment,
actually,
that's when everyone decided to pile on
Actually,
and vilify
what happened
as
is
a woman.
people began to pile on when she started having $500,000 baby showers in New York and flying back on the Clooney private plane.
Which
They
is
started
several
having a pile
separate
on.
points.
Started
Those are
having a
separate
pile on
points.
when they used Elton John's private plane like a taxi rank whilst preaching about carbon footprint. They had another pile on when they had other huge extravagant events they went to, and then when they're preaching about poverty on their Twitter account. Time and again, they were caught being rankly hypocritical. That was why the media coverage began to turn. Then there was all the stuff with her father. Many people felt that she was unnecessarily cruel to her father. People have since criticised his own behaviour. I accept that. But certainly to start with, they ditched him. They dropped him. Harry's never met his father-in-law in his life. You know, he proposed marriage to this girl knowing what's going to happen and then doesn't do anything to protect the father at all. And so now she's disowned him. What kind of people put compassion on their website, as they do, as being at the centre of their core being, when they live 70 miles away from this guy who has not got long for this world, he's in poor health, all he wants to do is meet his grandchildren, and she won't have anything to do with it? That's not compassionate. And also the hypocrisy and the lies are not what I think are decent values in people. Sorry.
All of those things seem to outweigh the fact that a black woman has said
Got
that
nothing
an
to do
institution
with
is
her
racist.
being
Everything
black.
is about racism. She has ultimately turned around and said that that institution is racist, and everyone has decided to pile on. So let me just tell you, in terms of my thoughts, at best, these individuals are weak, insecure, hate to see a rift, and have a positive prejudice towards the royal family. And at worst, they are a bunch of disgusting racists who fail to acknowledge their racial prejudice and actually find solace in seeking self-esteem and status from gaslighting black people. It is either one or the other or both.
Here's the problem. I would have said exactly the same thing if she'd been white. Exactly the same thing.
So what's the point that you're trying to make?
And actually, Kate Middleton, who came in, she got criticised very heavily by the media early on in that relationship.
But she didn't have to contend with
and
racism,
she just
did she?
did her duty, accepted in return
But she
for all the
didn't
luxury.
contend with racism, though,
yeah, but
did she?
these two
She
said
didn't contend with racism, though, did she?
Where did the racism come from?
OK, so you're clearly not understanding, so I'll
No,
break
no,
it
you're
down
not
again.
understanding
no, you're not
me.
understanding about the institution.
Where did the racism come from?
I'll answer.
Tell me
Can I
who was
answer?
racist and when.
OK, I'm going to answer to you. OK?
Who and when?
Right, let's just start with the
You can't
institution.
just say everyone's
OK, so
racist.
let me answer.
Yeah.
Who and when?
OK, so let me answer, OK? Firstly, racism, as I've said over the last several years, and I'll say it again, racism is firmly interwoven into the fabric of British society due to its historical context.
Right.
And
That wasn't my question.
And that way, I'm answering your question.
Not my question.
Let me finish, Piers.
Who was
This is the
racist to
thing.
Meghan and
If you-
Harry
I'm
in the
answering your
British
question.
media?
I'm answering
Or
your
who was
question.
racist at the palace?
I'm
And when
answering
were
your
they
question.
racist?
Of calling for compassion, yet cutting off Meghan's sick father. And that trailer? The footage wasn't even accurate. One scene that looked like paparazzi stalking them. It was from a Harry Potter premiere, years before they met. Even Meghan's crying scene came under fire. She's an actress, someone said. Was that even real? These were brutal accusations. Some viewers agreed, others called it pure cruelty. By the end, the debate was in flames. Accusations of racism, claims of gaslighting, allegations of manipulation. Neither side budged. One shouted institutional racism, the other media exploitation. No agreement, no closure, just a raw look at how deeply divided the world is, on race, power, and truth.
Can I answer your question now?
Sure, give me one example.
Perfect. So, firmly, racism is firmly interwoven into the fabric of British society.
Just give me an example.
Secondly, I'm going to make
That's
my
your
point.
opinion.
I'm going to make
Give
my
me an
point.
example.
Hold on a second. Secondly, the royal family smeared their own name, tarnished their own name by failing to adopt anti-racism stances.
Right. Is there one
and
example
that is why,
or not?
hold on a second, and they've perpetuated racism.
I only want one example.
I'm giving you the example. They've
Of the British media
perpetuated
being
racism.
racist or someone at the palace, and who
I'm giving
was
you an
it?
example. Let me finish, please. Is that okay, Piers? Thank you very much. So,
can answer the question.
I'm going to answer the question. So, in terms of the institution, I'm going to give you several examples of covert racism, clearly, as you don't understand. First,
Can you give me one
no,
example?
I'm going to.
I
Let's
do, but
just-
I see the flip
No,
side
no,
as
no,
well.
no,
I see
no,
where it's
listen,
manipulated.
listen,
and where
We're going to have to go to a break.
The Queen
So-
gives out
it's-
badges that
it's-
ultimately
it's
Iman,
being
depicts a
flipped.
man,
Iman,
a white
either-
man
used
with
for absolutely
wings.
everything.
The
People are
Queen
sick of
Either
gives
give
out
me an
badges.
example
I'm giving
or
you
say you
examples.
can't.
I'm giving you examples, but you won't let me speak.
me
and this
one
is what's
specific
happened.
example.
I'm giving you examples. All right, so in terms of media, because this is what happens with you, you're clearly not trying to hear me.
Just
when I'm
ask
trying
for
to
a
speak.
fact.
In terms of the media, we've already seen the clear distinction between how the media has displayed or spoken
Okay,
or represented,
you can't.
obviously, in terms of how they've represented
You don't
Meghan
have an
and how they've
example, right.
represented. Yes, I do. In terms of holding a baby.
Okay.
Kate held her stomach and
All right.
therefore it was fine. Meghan held her stomach and she's a terrible person. This is an
must be
example of
racism.
covert racism. No, it's called covert racism that you don't understand.
Oh, it's nonsense, Iman. There is no racism in
With
the
your
British media to Meghan Markle.
With your
There never
rudimentary
has
understanding
been.
of racism.
None of it has been
it's
racist.
Fine. You
Well,
can continue to perpetuate your covert racism on national television.
you know what?
Perfectly
Okay, I've got to leave it there.
Perfectly fine,
I have to leave it
Piers.
there. We've had a good run at this. I don't have any racism, covert or overt.
No, you have racial prejudice, and it
No,
manifests itself
I have
if you
no
decide not to
racial
be
prejudice
anti-racist. And that's what you
whatsoever.
don't understand about
I have
anti-racism,
none
Piers.
whatsoever.
That's what you don't understand
I
about
wouldn't be giving you
anti-racism,
21
Piers.
minutes of my show
So because
on a
this
regular
is, but
basis
this is what
if I had a
happens.
racial prejudice,
But this
would
is
I?
what happens. So white people tend to justify either sleeping with a black person, having a black friend, or hiring a black person as to
I'm not
make
going to
sure that
sleep
they're
with you,
exempt
and I'm not
from
going to
racial
hire
prejudice.
you, but I will
The
keep
reality
having you
is-
back
the
as a
reality
commentator
is-
if you can provide some facts behind
Which
the
I did.
extreme
Which I
rhetoric.
did. Yes, which I
You can't
did.
just say everyone's racist in Britain,
No,
but I can't give you a
explained to
single
I explained
example.
To you, I explained to you
All
that
right.
she already experienced
We've
racism
got to leave
within
it
that
there.
institution. I already told you
We've
that.
got to leave it
and
there.
you've gaslit that woman just
I
like the
know,
rest
I'm
of
a
the
gaslighting
media.
covert
Yes, you are.
racist.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
are.
very much
Yes,
indeed for
you are
joining me.
indeed.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Or is this docuseries a truth bomb? Or just a royal cash grab? Are Harry and Meghan speaking truth? or playing the game they once condemned? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. Subscribe to iStudio for more no-filter deep dives into the royal family and controversy. Hit that bell, because we're just getting started.